discussion today. Today we have got Kelsey Buchalter, one of our recently graduated Nutrition Network coach practitioners. Welcome, Kelsey. I'm excited to talk to you today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Awesome. So we're going to be chatting to Kelsey about whether coaching is the changing kind of point or the tipping point for human health. Can coaching take human health in the right direction when the rest of our medical fraternity seems to have been failing up to this point? And why are coaches important? So that's what we're here to discuss today. And obviously, Kelsey is perfect for this because she's an incredibly accomplished coach with her own podcast and all sorts of things she can tell us a little bit about. So I think we're going to really get a good idea of why coaching is important, what it does, and what it's capable of doing into the future. And before we take a deep dive into this topic, I just want to tell you a little bit about our birthday sale that is running until tomorrow. So you have until tomorrow to capitalize on this wonderful opportunity. It's a 50% discount on our Nutrition Network Advisor training. And as I said, it's until tomorrow, the 31st of July. For low carbohydrate enthusiasts wishing to upskill and acquire a professional training in therapeutic carbohydrate restriction and keto nutrition coaching, this training focuses on the science as well as the essential coaching skills needed to coach your clients and patients through their dietary transition. The training is presented by leading experts in their relevant fields, from world-class scientists, specialist doctors, academics, ICF accredited life coaches, and internationally renowned motivational speakers. And this course is jam-packed with outstanding educational content. It has a combination of scientific modules and coaching modules, which cover all the information needed to kickstart your nutrition advisor career. And we say kickstart because you'll still have to combine this with various other modules and trainings, and eventually go through the intensive certification path, which is a live, more one-on-one kind of or group training, which Kelsey can also tell us a bit about, in order to become, like Kelsey, a Nutrition Network certified coach practitioner. These scientific modules that you cover in this advisor training, which is the first step in your path to becoming a certified coach practitioner. The certified modules within it are basically contain sound foundational knowledge on low carb nutrition, supported by the latest, most up-to-date international research. And then the coaching module provides complementary coaching and motivation driving skills presented by leading experts. And as a nutrition advisor, you will be skilled in offering your clients individualized and personalized guidance to achieve their health and weight goals. And you will be equipped with a specific set of skills to help guide, motivate, and inspire lasting change. And we're going to be discussing that today as well with Kelsey. So just briefly, we have Prof. Tim Noakes lecturing on this training. We have Dr. Hasina Kaji, Dr. Neville Wellington talking about low carb diets, reversing chronic disease, and introduction to low carb. We have Maria and Craig Emmer talking about ketosis. We have Prof. Tim Noakes again talking about cholesterol, the heart, and statins. We have me talking about getting started on low carb, as well as on how to interpret food labels and processed foods. And then we also have low carb advice for advisors and biometrics. So what do you look at? How do you interpret things? Banting on a budget, all sorts of things. And then obviously we have another within this, a coaching module, which is run by a variety of coaches, including Colleen Joy Page, Prof. Noakes. I mean, you don't get a bigger coach than himself. Donald O'Neill looking at the house that health built, Andre Obrovic, Rita Fenter, Doug Reynolds from Low Carb USA, and many, many, many more. So it's really a jam-packed module. Get it for half price until tomorrow. Okay, so that's that. Now we're diving into the juicy stuff with Kelsey. All right, so I think let's first get you more acquainted with who Kelsey is. Oh, and I didn't even introduce myself. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Tamsin Murphy. I'm a registered dietitian with a master's degree in low carbohydrate nutrition and physiology. And I also work at Nutrition Network, where I do wonderful things, such as have the opportunity to interview amazing people like Kelsey. So Kelsey, can you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself and your background and interests that got you, that even started you down this journey?
Sure. So, as you mentioned earlier, I am the host of a podcast, and that's called the Human Theatre Podcast. I'm also a TEDx speaker, a nutrition network coach practitioner, as very recently, and I'm also a singer songwriter and actor. So, before I did all of this, I was studying musical theatre, which is one of my interests, and perfectly fits into health because it's definitely, I think, creativity and the performing arts very much fall in one of the tenets of health for sure. But yeah, I think what really sparked my interest in all of this was my own health journey, which we can maybe dive deep into. I have a lifelong history with severe anorexia, bulimia, and mental health issues, specifically anxiety. And I really was in the standard of care for 20 plus years and just left feeling hopeless and helpless until one day a nutritional intervention, which was the carnivore diet, saved my life. It gave me it back and so much more. And since then, my first carnivore meal in 2018, I've just not been able to not research and speak out about just lifestyle interventions in the treatment and prevention of chronic disease.
Oh my goodness, that sounds like, I mean, you've said it in a nutshell, which is beautiful. I can totally see why you are, in what you're in because you're able to deliver things, with a lot of bang for buck in what you say. But there's a big story behind that as well. I mean, if you had eating disorders and major anxiety that resulted in you seeking treatment for 20 years and failing in that, I mean, that sounds like a very, very traumatic journey. Can you explain how you felt and what your life looked like before you started the carnivore diet to what your life looks like and how you feel on the inside afterwards, because I think that's really important. I think people, they hear I suffered with mental illness, I had an eating disorder, and they don't understand what that really means, like what that actually looks like on the inside. And so I want you to just kind of explain to me and to our audience, how did that feel and what did your life look like then versus now? Like, why? Because obviously it was hard hitting, or you wouldn't have turned you around and made you go from musical theater into promoting health. So tell us a little bit about that change and how it really looked for you.
Sure. Gosh, so I mean, my mindset before was just one of scarcity, fear, and lack. I honestly was convinced because I saw every specialist physician under the sun. I went like from a young age. I was in the psychologist and psychiatrists like waiting rooms and rooms. I was also with endocrinologists. I've had like MRI scans to like see if there's something wrong like structurally with my brain. Like I honestly thought that I was broken because no medication could help and I just felt so lost. And yeah, I think I'm going to emphasize the fact that I felt so broken because I think this will come in with the beauty of coaching at a later stage. But I honestly felt that my life was just destined for just being like I felt that I was lacking something in my brain. Like, why can't I cope with life? And why is it so hard to cope?
Yeah.
And like, I just wanted to go to sleep every night, not waking up because it was just so hard to be inside of my head and inside of my body. And like, I also knew with me, like, on the outside everything seemed okay, like I have wonderful parents who love and support me. I got really good grades at school. I was friends with the quote unquote popular kids, but inside was a completely different story. And yeah, I really felt broken. And then the minute I gave myself protein and fat, like my brain switched on and I was like, I've never felt so alive. Like I truly had never felt that alive in my life. And like from going from a brain that was so miserable and just living in a life of terror and torment to a brain that is now filled with, I can't actually shut up about just all these ideas and thoughts. Is just like a complete 180 that I think it's the reason why I'm living in so much gratitude because it's like I my life before this was just so drastically different. And it's like just from one meal, how like quick it
Now
just
that's fascinating because isn't it supposed to, I mean, you listen to all the psychiatrists and anyone who's attended our lectures on the metabolism and the mind training by Nutrition Network, or you've read Chris Palmer's book Brain Energy, or Georgia Eads' latest book Change Your Diet, Change Your Mind. You think, okay, this is going to take about 3 to 4 months, but you say on the first meal you felt a difference. how long did that take? So was it literally a matter of you ate a carnivore meal within the context of having eaten normal up till then, and then you felt energetic and happy?
So
Is that an oversimplification?
I think there is a bit of nuance that would definitely need to be stated, and that was I was severely anorexic. So I was very much malnourished. So I do think the fact that I was so hungry and depleted was, there's very much that as a foundational basis for why my brain switched
Absolutely.
on again, especially with the fats. But
Yeah.
I also had restricted myself from fats
Mm.
and protein, before. And
Yeah.
those are such whole, real, nutrient dense, bioavailable foods for the body.
Yeah.
So, and it really was within the first bite because my body was so in need of like
Yes.
bioavailable nutrition. So, yeah.
Wow.
But
Well,
with the
that's
microbiome,
yeah.
sorry, I was say with the microbiome alone, that's a very quick turnover as well. And the
Yeah.
gut brain axis is, well,
Yeah.
a biotic thing. So,
Exactly, exactly. So there's all sorts of mechanisms that actually could be responsible for that, especially within the context of being so malnourished. And so I think that's wonderful. And then you just carried on eating that way and you just continued to feel better. So that is the catalyst for you starting your podcast and then and then deciding to go down this road of promoting health and trying to inform other people and support other people to experience the kind of turnaround that you experience. Is that correct?
yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, I just again was living this incredible therapeutic benefit of just a dietary change in and of itself, like
Yeah.
let alone all the other lifestyle interventions that can also be applied. And then I started researching, and then I was like, I need to be in this space. Like, I need to be qualified more to help people, and that's where I eventually like realized, oh my gosh, the place that I live, Cape Town, like there's Nutrition Network. I have to do their course, and that's when I enrolled in the nutrition advisory course.
Wonderful. So the advisor training and then all the other trainings and finally a nutrition network qualified practitioner. So congratulations. So now that you are a qualified and certified coach, how do you feel that your coaching can influence individuals to make healthier lifestyle choices?
Sure. So I mean, lifestyle is the basis for everything, and I would say it's one of the biggest contributing factors to, non-communicable diseases of today, modern civilization, because how essentially how we live our days and how we behave in our days is how we live our lives.
Mm.
So I really do think the crux of coaching just, provides these wonderful ways of challenging all the limiting beliefs that we have been conditioned and built up from a very young age. And it challenges it in order to then be able to sort of like clear the lenses through which we see life and like see ourselves and deem ourselves as worthy enough to be able to then live the life that we actually are born to live, and that's essentially in line with being in optimal health and well-being. So I think coaching in and of itself is kind of the best of both worlds because it marries the knowledge and the science, but it marries it with like practical implementation in
Yes.
under this realm of um, helping individuals gain insight and knowledge into how they may be limiting their own selves. And I think the biggest thing that I've learned of what coaching really does, and I've experienced it myself, is that it really helps people connect back with themselves and see that everything that they need is already inside of them. Like they don't need to
Mm.
outsource their health to anyone else. And I think that is the most empowering thing, especially in today's world where we outsource so much of ourselves to everything else and everyone else. So yeah.
That is so true. Kelsey, do you think that coaching such as this could have helped you earlier had you been offered coaching? And if so, how? Like, what do you think the main limitations or struggles were within you that could have been helped by coaching and stopped
Yeah,
you much earlier so you wouldn't have had to do 20 years of struggles,
100%. I mean, gosh, if someone had just even asked me, what are you eating? Like, that would have been amazing because I would have known, like, yeah. Anyway, but yeah,
Mm.
I just think the practical implementation of it. So I was in talk therapy, as I said, like for 20 plus years, and I was very good at intellectualizing things and psychoanalyzing myself, which I'm a huge proponent of therapy. I think it's such important skills to have. But I mean, it reaches a point like after 20 years where it's like if you're still talking and theorizing, but like not anything's really changing, then it's yeah, kind of a
There's,
red
you
flag.
haven't looked deep enough. You haven't looked at the physiological stuff, right? Then
Well, you're not
you've
exactly. You're not getting to
Mhm.
the root and you're still struggling. So I actually did go to one coaching session in the midst of my anorexia, and that in and of itself opened my eyes to what coaching, like just how powerful it was. Literally in his opening remarks, this coach said to me a sentence that has stuck with me ever since, and I will repeat it because I often do repeat it. But he said to me, Kelsey, if you are unable to nourish your authenticity, how do you expect to nourish yourself on a purely physiological level?
Oh
And
wow.
like that alone was enough. And I think that literally personifies how coaching through science and practical implementation, but it gets to help you see clearly again and reconnect with
Mm,
yourself. Um, so
yeah.
yeah,
So I think I just want to break that apart a little bit, because I think what you've said so many really important things, but we've brushed over them. But I feel like what keeps coming up is your disconnect with yourself. And I think most of us have that, whether it's because we get caught up in the rat race or the day-to-day life and the day-to-day pressures, or, whether, and it's probably compounded by physiological problems within us, whether that's mitochondrial dysfunction or eating addictive foods or whatever it is. But connecting with your authenticity really is talking about connecting with yourself and figuring out what it is that makes you tick and what is driving your behaviors and your choices. Is that correct, Kelsey?
yeah, yeah, 100%. Because essentially, our behavior stems from our feelings, which stem from our thoughts. And I think to
Mm.
kind
I
of
wanted to
reverse.
say, how do coaches do that? How do coaches like get you when a psychologist who has studied for years and does talk therapy, surely that's what it's all about. It's about self-reflecting and figuring out what's going on with yourself. How is coaching different to talk therapy? How does it make you able to connect with yourself when 20 years of talk therapy isn't?
Yeah, well, I think, the first and foremost thing is that coaching has a huge like emphasis on just like yeah, as you said, like helping the client reconnect with themselves and see themselves worthy, but almost like um with adding insight into that. So it's not only that they're just talking and sharing their story, the coach almost like shines a mirror back onto the client. And a coach isn't there to like give them answers or fix anything. That's we're not really allowed to do that at all. In fact, we just facilitate it. So we like ask challenging questions. We pose challenging questions almost purposely to sort of like let the client figure it out for themselves. And I mean, of course, this is a skill, and it's very bio individual as well. Of course, every client and every situation will look different in how we get there. But you know, for some people it's really starting with behavioral change, because that kind of reverse engineers the whole process of thoughts create feelings, which creates behavior. So the huge it's kind of like coaching gets to the crux of it. There's like it just like goes straight to the chase with
Sounds like
not
it's working in the opposite direction. I'm sorry to interrupt
yeah,
you, but I mean, you keep saying thoughts create feelings, which create behavior, which is the central tenet to cognitive behavioral therapy, which is like the gold standard for behavior change in psychology for all sorts of mental health conditions, whether it's eating disorders or anxiety, or they even use it for things like IBS. Cognitive behavioral therapy is used, or anger management, whatever. It's used for everything, really. But you're saying that coaching is about actually rather changing the behavior often, which then what reverse engineers things. So you change your behavior and what you start feeling different and you start thinking different.
yeah, 100%. And then also one big thing with coaching is that it also simplifies things. So it kind of like
Mm.
it's play is such a loose word to use here, but really it's putting someone in a space where there's no like clinical sort of sensations and feelings, in that coaching is very simplistic as well. I mean, Tracy, which was in the coach practitioners course now, was our coaching lecturer, and she just blew my mind completely. But she has this amazing analogy that she uses, called the choice point. Well, it's more like a tool. And essentially, at any given time, we have two choices. We can either move towards our goals or away from them.
Mm.
And that's where
Mm.
we stand at the choice point. Like, okay, are we going to choose to move towards our goals or away from them? And that is just so simple, but so
Yeah.
practical and
Yeah.
easily accessible. I think coaching as well, it's such an easily accessible tool. And I think, life doesn't have to be so hard and so complicated and
Mm.
theoretical and intellectual. I mean, of course, there's a time and place, but especially
Mm.
when it comes to behavioral change, and especially when someone is feeling quote unquote broken and lost and so overwhelmed, I think to put them in an environment that is conducive to them being inspired and seeing that, oh, it's actually not too hard and it doesn't have to be so complicated as my head is telling me and ruminating. I think
Mm.
that is such a antagonist and such a powerful way of helping to create change. And again, I'm going to go back to the word easily accessible, because it's easily accessible, it's simple, it's effective as well. So yeah.
Mm. Wow, well, thank you. I must say, Tracy McBeath is an exceptional coach and an exceptional teacher, and I've learned so many tools from her myself, as a co-lecturer on the certification path. Um, just to refer back to another word that we wanted to go back to, which was broken. Um, how does coaching put you back together when you're broken? Can it? Can it even put you back together when you're broken?
I believe it can. I believe that no one is beyond hope and no one is beyond help. Um, I think again, one of the biggest premise, especially of insight-based coaching, is to help people become aware that everything they need is inside of them and they're not broken. Like, the body is just merely responding to its perception of reality and whatever it's ingesting, or be it food or social media, etc. Like, there's nothing is insignificant. The body is a sensing organism and it's always responding the way it should. And I always go back to the basic premise that our bodies have an innate ability to heal themselves when put in the right environment to do so. So I really do believe, and I mean, coaching covers that. Coaching knows that. It's one of the universal truths. Like, everything we need is already inside of us. So it's really about helping empower individuals to see that they are worthy and that they can, and become their own sort of like health advocates.
I love that, Kelsey. And I think one of the things that I truly believe is that health is our birthright. We naturally are supposed to be healthy. And similarly, we naturally have got everything inside of us that that can make us healthy, and to have someone guide you in a simple kind of way that's based on very behavioral kind of modifications and ensuring that your physiology is right, that it can respond to your internal tools that you have at your disposal, with the guidance of a coach. I think it's very powerful for us to realize that we are so powerful. So I just wanted to move on, Kelsey, to the your experience with the Nutrition Network coach training. Um, what do you feel were the most valuable insights or skills that you gained from this training? I know we've discussed some of them, like the choice point that Tracy McBeath taught you. But in general, I mean, you can touch on more specifics, or you could touch on just general insights and skills that you felt stood out to you along the course of your training.
Sure. Well, up and above just the scientific knowledge that I gained, that was so amazing and intellectually stimulating. I could do that for the rest of my life. But on the coaching side of things, I mean, just gosh, the importance of active listening and building rapport and trust, kind of like learning the back end of coaching. Because I had only ever experienced coaching prior as a client. So,
Yeah.
like, to get behind the scenes of what coaching and how to practically
Mm.
implement it, that was really, really powerful. And it definitely gave me a lot more confidence to go out there and help other people.
Yeah, totally. I totally agree. And I love the insight-based coaching that Tracy teaches on the certification path, where it's very much about looking within and your own insight. Basically, a coach, as you said, isn't telling you anything. A coach is helping you, facilitating you to see what is within, to use insight, which is incredibly powerful. Could you tell me and and our listeners whether there's any particular modules or sessions that particularly stood out to you?
Oh my gosh, all of them. Firstly, like a lot of the people were all like my inspirations and heroes in the low carb space. So it was just like so cool getting to be lectured by them, like Craig and Maria and Prof and you and Dr. Kaji and Dr. Wellington. Um, I also really, really enjoyed, I mean, of course, the coaching aspect, because I think that's such a missing piece, like, especially for people who are very passionate about learning the science. It's knowledge is one thing, knowledge is powerful, but, you need to be able to practically apply it. And that's when it's really powerful. But
Absolutely.
yeah, gosh, I just remember Prof's, I think it was the first lecture when he spoke, through human health, through like a lens of archaeology and then like, just the history and like how we evolved as a human species, and that our large colon is like a lot larger and longer than our primates because we have a much longer, smaller intestine, which is just indicative that we were evolved to eat meat to be able to digest all of those things, because the small intestine is what has all the digestive enzymes. That was like revolutionary. And then, of course, just the history of like the food pyramid. And gosh, yeah, those were all incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. Taking you kind of through the history of humankind
Yeah.
and the evidence that indicates that we weren't supposed to eat a standard American diet, and that we really are more kind of carnivores with a touch of omnivory in us, if you will. But
Yeah.
yes, that's a very, very interesting topic. I can totally, totally agree with you. So I I would like to know how this training has contributed to your personal growth, because it sounds like you had already personally grown and found your cure before you even got onto the training. Do you feel that the training has contributed to your personal growth as well? Obviously, it's contributed to your professional development, but how has it contributed to your personal growth?
Sure. Well, I think it validated my whole experience because I got to piece it all together, like why I felt so incredible and alive again with just a simple dietary intervention. That it's also given me so much confidence, and verification to just go out there and share my story, and also know that what I'm going to be helping clients with, is firstly validated and backed by science and human history, basically. And yeah, I just think it's this whole sense of it's all coming together and it's all pieced together, a lot more understanding and a lot more confidence.
That's wonderful, Kelsey. And it sounds like you needed the confidence. And I think so we all do really. But I just wanted to ask this closing question about whether there's just anything else that you would like to share with our audience about the program or about your journey that you think is important that we haven't touched on to this point.
Sure. Well, just about the program quickly. I mean, as you sort of alluded to, this program is very much covering the foundation of just LCHF in and of itself and coaching. Like literally every other course that I've done, up to now, up to date, has kind of been like another brick added to, each one of those lectures that are involved in the nutrition advisory. And it's like so wonderful to just even go back to, like when I was preparing for my exams now, it's like I kind of just needed to go back to the beginning and back to the basics. And it was just like incredible, like, literally each and every one of those lectures has just been built, yeah, built on and elaborated more and more as I've gone through more and more trainings and programs with the Nutrition Network. So that's really awesome to like know that it is literally like giving you the foundational and the fundamental knowledge that you need. And then just on my personal growth, I think the thoughts that I'll just leave everyone with is, again, like the body has an innate ability to heal itself when put in the right environment to do so. And coaches very much, bridge the gap between the doctors who maybe have 15 minutes with their patients, and
Yeah.
like it's kind of like you can't get through everything that you need to do. And of course, as we've alluded to already, like lifestyle is where it's at in terms of making the long term sustainable change. So I think this is where coaches really help provide that environment conducive for the body to get itself into a state where it can then heal. And I think, again, just shining a mirror onto everyone that everything they need is inside of themselves. Like it's all there already. They don't need to outsource anything else. And work in collaboration with your doctors. Like you're paying them at the end of the day. So um, yeah, just empowering yourself with your own health advocacy and informed consent. And yeah.
Absolutely. I totally love all of that you've said, Kelsey. I think is really, really important. And I just want to emphasize your point, which you brought up, it's a new point that you've just brought up, but I think it's important, is that healthcare professionals have a limited amount of time to spend with their patients. And they can give you a map, but they can't help you follow it in that time. And that is really what a coach is. A coach is there to guide you every step of the way, or to facilitate your following of that map every step of the way to result in behavior change. It's all fine and well to say, okay, Kelsey, go onto a carnivore diet, and you'll get better. What does that look like? How do you do that? How do you even motivate yourself to do that? Why should you motivate yourself to do that? Do you even believe you can do that? These are all the kind of things that you go through with a coach to uncover your authentic self, to kind of shine a mirror upon yourself so that you can achieve those amazing results that are possible with the interventions that your healthcare professional may prescribe. And a coach is there not to treat disease, but to promote health. And when they work in conjunction with a medical professional, then they can also help facilitate the treatment of disease as prescribed by the medical professional. And that's where Nutrition Network comes in, because we link the doctors, the dietitians, the psychologists, the coaches together within a network that sees health and nutrition in the same way, and can collaboratively help to treat disease as well as promote health. So, Kelsey, thank you so much for sharing your story and your insights regarding this coaching journey with us. If people want to get hold of you or watch your podcast or that kind of thing, where do they go?
Sure. So you can find the podcast. You can just type in The Human Theatre on any podcast platform like Spotify, Apple. I'm mostly active on Instagram, and it's at my name and surname, so Kelsey Becholte. And then I'm also active on LinkedIn.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Kelsey. Thank you for joining us. Everybody, remember, sign up, 50% discount until tomorrow on our advisor trainings. So really make the most of that great deal. Kelsey, thank you for your time. Listeners, thank you for listening, for tuning in. And that's all from us today. Stay healthy.